My name is Bob Fish, and I am a real estate broker from Maryland. I'd like to speak with you a little while about the third most stressful event in life. According to psychologists for the National Association of Realtors, the acquisition or disposition of personal property is the third most stressful event in life. It is third only to the death of a family member or divorce. So we're dealing with something that's a pretty serious matter, and for us in the real estate industry, it's very important to know that. We encounter people at a time when they're excited and they see this process as a lot of fun, and in a very short time they become another kind of creature that we don't understand. And so it's helpful to realize that this process is the third most stressful event in life. Now, one of the things I'd like to mention to you is the single most important decision that you as a prospective purchaser or seller will make, and that is the real estate agent you choose to represent you. Many times when you are out to buy a home, you believe that in choosing a real estate agent you have selected someone who is going to represent you in this transaction. And that can be a primary reason why later on there is a great deal of stress, because the real estate agent, unless it is otherwise negotiated, is the representative of the seller. In fact, a real estate agent has a fiduciary responsibility of absolute fidelity to the seller. That's a standard of civil law, which is the highest standard of civil law that can be applied in the United States. So the relationship of agency, which is the relationship between a real estate agent representing a seller in a transaction, is a rather important relationship. Now, when you select an agent to help you find a property, unless you are specifically paying their commission, they are accepting a role of sub-agency with whatever agent has listed the property for sale. It's very important that you understand that as a prospective purchaser, because you need to know that if you want specific representation, you need to hire it. Either hire an attorney or hire a real estate agent who is practicing as a buyer broker. Now I want to cover a term called buyer's remorse. I think anytime anyone buys anything, they'll experience this feeling, this terrible feeling like I've made a mistake. And we get a sickness in our stomach, there's an adrenaline surge, and I'm just absolutely certain I've done the wrong thing. I think it's important when we enter this experience of purchasing property that we realize that for most of us it's the most expensive commitment we're going to make in our lifetime. And so buyer's remorse is more prominent. The fact that we have this feeling means that we're normal. It doesn't mean that we've made a mistake. But if no one tells you that, and you have this terrible, overwhelming sense of doom, and many times you feel like you've made an error in the process or experience of going through the mortgage application and then the title search, and that can really make it a stressful experience. I think that what I'm going to do is just sort of outline what happens in the process of acquiring a property. First of all, you make a decision to get involved in the process in the first place. Now, if this is your first time out, if you are what we call a first-time home buyer, then I salute you, because it's a pretty brave thing to do to come into the marketplace and go and meet with a real estate agent who you're absolutely certain knows everything you don't know and is in a position to take advantage of you. In fact, we are many times seen as little green people with horns whose sole ambition in life is to take your money away. And of course, there's nothing further from the truth. But nevertheless, that is the perception that a buyer carries forward. So if it's your first time, we salute you for being brave enough to come into the marketplace. First of all, the process in selecting homes. How do you know when you decide what homes you're going to view or evaluate that you are going to see a fair sampling of what's available in the marketplace. When you work with a real estate agent, they have access to a program that's called a multiple listing service. The multiple listing service has all of the available properties in a given area, and a computer printout can be generated, and you can begin this process of looking for homes by eliminating the homes you don't want to evaluate on paper. And that's a fairly simple process. First of all, with your real estate agent, you've determined what price range properties you're going to be able to look at. There's no value in looking at and falling in love with a property that you can't afford to buy. So when you run this computer list for the entire area, you can eliminate those properties which are priced beyond your ability and those properties which are priced below your area of interest. Now that will leave a certain number. Some of these will be 5 bedrooms, some will be 2 bedrooms, and you'll have some requirements. Some will have 2 bathrooms, some will have 2.5 and 3, and so on. And so you're able to eliminate properties on paper and therefore cover hundreds and hundreds of miles in a very few minutes. The other thing that this does is when you've made your selections, if you're driving down the street later on and you pass a property for sale, you don't have to say, well, what about that one? Why didn't we look at that one? You probably did, and we're able to eliminate it. Now this process will take a great deal of the stress out. The stress is usually produced by the idea that I'm going to make a mistake, that I'm going to do this wrong. I'm going to commit myself to $100 or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of error. And so by entering this process of selection, and I want to caution you not to meet a real estate agent at a property and hope that they bring with them 2 other properties for you to look at. When you decide to get into the market, go to a realtor's office, have them run this sheet for you, and go through this selection process. It takes a little bit of extra time, but it's well worthwhile. There's also another thing that will occur. You'll have an opportunity to decide whether or not you want to work with this agent. In spite of the fact that you are now aware that the agent is going to represent the seller, a certain amount of what they are going to do will have an effect on the smoothness of this transaction. So you want to make certain that whoever you select, you're comfortable with them. That you have a feeling that they are going to be able to carry out the requirements and the requests that you have, get you the information that you need. That's an important thing. Once you make a decision as to what properties you want to evaluate, as you go to see properties, try and only look at 3 or 4. Beyond that, what happens is we begin to take the fireplace from one property and put it in the living room from another. So as you evaluate properties, eliminate them. That is the purpose, is just to eliminate, no, this one's not right, and go to the next one. Generally, if you take the time to eliminate properties on paper, carefully select the properties that you want to evaluate, most of the time you're able to find the property that's right for you in the first day out. Sometimes it takes 2 days, but generally speaking, we find that you can actually find the right property for you in 1 day. That eliminates a lot of stress. Then, once you make an offer to purchase, generally that offer is carried forward by the real estate agent, and there is some time that occurs while you sit and worry. Now I'm going to recommend to you, in fact I'm going to become a doctor and give you a prescription for buyer's remorse, because this is the time when buyer's remorse becomes most prevalent. It's right after we sign that contract offer to purchase. So I'm going to recommend that you go to a 7-Eleven store or a Hive or the grocery store and procure a bag of M&Ms. And every time you have that sick feeling way down in the pit of your stomach, what I suggest you do is take 2 M&Ms and call your real estate agent. Because what is really happening is there's a question that you don't have the answer to. Did I pay too much? Will I be approved for the loan? And the time it takes to Call your real estate agent, let the candy help to diffuse the adrenaline, and you'll feel better. You'll also have a little chuckle every time you think about taking 2 M&Ms and calling your real estate agent. That goes a long way towards helping you to overcome this terrible feeling of impending doom. Good luck, and thanks.